Hi everybody, Leslie here. I've got some lovely hanging decorations for you today. These are using the same principle as my spinning puzzle cards, but they're not puzzles this time. It's just a way to make a snow globe so that, this can be hanging on your tree and you don't need to pick it up and shake it to make the glitter move or whatever else you put in as the snow in your snow globe. So this one was using a set that was designed to make a snow globe. And then this one, I just made the base shape myself from some nested label dies, nested circles to make the snow globe part. And as you can see, I put a bit much snow in this one, but you get the idea. So I'm going to show you how you make your back piece so that it's the right shape for whatever you make. These could be tree decorations. You could make them smaller and make the backs plain and have them as gift tags. There's all sorts of ways you can use the idea. It's really simple, and it would be fantastic if you could like, subscribe if you've not already. I'm so close to my 1,000 subscribers. I do have a huge giveaway coming when I hit 1,000 subscribers. So if you've not already subscribed, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe on YouTube. It would be fantastic. So thanks in advance if you do that, and hit the notify bell if you're already subscribed. Make sure you see when I do hit that 1,000 subscribers so that you can be in with a chance of entering my giveaway. I don't want you to miss that if you had subscribed. So let's get on with it now and make these two. So first up today, we're going to use the free gifts that came with Die Cutting Essentials issue 107. This came out in about September, October, but as far as I can see, it is still in stock on CraftStash, and I'll pop a link down below for that. So this came with dies that are already set up to make a snow globe and some things you can put inside, plus some shaker domes and some stamps that you could use to go inside. The die set's a base, the frame that is like a double circle, and you could also ink through or emboss to get the dots, the little house scene, which obviously you don't need to use, and the little Christmas. So that's the dies already. And out of my stash, I've pulled, this is like a heavyweight cardstock that I've had for years. It's like red with silver foil on it. I thought it might be good that I could just put this on the back so that if this is a decoration, it does spin round, there's still something interesting on the back. I've got some red foam to build up my layers if I don't want to use the domes that it came with. And I've just got some silver scraps just so that I can cut the frame in silver if that's what I choose to do. Thought I'd show you how you can make your own background. So these are two separate dies. All I'm going to do is grab a little bit of my washi tape and tape these together. Now, I think this magazine came with a download to give you an outline, but it's so simple to do it yourself. I flipped my dies upside down, and all I'm going to do to give myself a base piece and a pattern is draw around it. So I've now just got a pencil line that I can cut this out. So now I've got the back, which is just slightly bigger than my dies, so that you don't have to watch me cut everything out. What I've done is I have used my foam to cut. I've actually cut two layers because it's quite thin foam. So I've cut two layers of my red foam using the die that came with the set. I've also cut a white and saved the inside so that I can use this to make my background, and I've cut a silver out as well. So they'll just help making the frame and the topper for the frame, and this is what the background will get built on. So that was all using the die that came in the set. And I've cut out a white background with the little house die, and I've cut out the base. I've done it in silver and white because I've not decided yet which one I'm going to use. And then I went and got from my nesting circle dies a circle die that's just a tiny bit bigger than the frame that came in it. And that's to make the back piece to stick all this down to, because of course these are stuck together, so you can't make one the same size as the outer one. If you haven't got nesting circle dies, do what I did for this piece and just draw around it and cut it out with a pair of scissors. And then, of course, you will end up with a circle that, again, is just very slightly bigger than your frame, just to stick everything down to. So that's where that circle came from. All I'm going to do to start with is decorate my back piece. So I'm just going to do a little bit of colouring and stick this down. So I've got Cosmic Shimmer fluffy stuff, which is white fluffy stuff. Now, this is supposed to make snow. And I got this at a craft fair quite a few months ago, and I haven't used it. So that's me literally popping the top off. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit on the house roofs, and we'll see how this goes, because I've never used it. It's just paper. We can always do another. Now it says to heat set it gently. So how fun is that? So the blob that I put out on my paper, can you see how thick that is? There we go. Can you see how? And it is dry and fluffy and squishy. So that's such fun. Look at that. Can you see how dimensional that is? Can you see this? You should be able to see with the shadow being cast. So that is Cosmic Shimmer fluffy stuff. To be honest, I've probably put that on way too thick, but we're going to go with it because that's really fun. So that's that bit. I'm just going to stick this together, and then we're going to start sticking our other layers together. This is our piece that we're going to attach all this to and drop this into. So I'm going to get all this stuck together so that the glue's drying on all this as well. So I've got my inside for my shaker, I've got my back piece ready to go, and I've got a brad, and I've got a piece that's small enough that sits inside it. Can be anything. Now, to make the whole thing spin, this is the important bit. Before we put our back piece in, we need to get a hole in the middle of this. You want to make yourself a template, whatever size this back piece is, so that you can find the centre of this. I could have made this hole before I stuck the frame on. Would have made my life a bit easier. So you can do this, but I'm leaving my glue to dry because it's so cold in my office that it's going to take time for my glue to dry today. All I'm going to do out of a scrap piece of copy paper is cut myself a little template, and while I'm at it, I'm going to cut my piece of acetate as well. So this is just some saved acetate from packaging. You can see it's had glue and things on it. So I'm just going to, at the same time, cut an acetate circle as well that's the same size. So the reason I'm doing it at the same time is if you've got marks on your cutting plate, your acetate will pick up every little scratch and mark off your cutting plates. So the easiest way to do this without getting all the scratches and little marks off your cutting plate is to do it inside a piece of copy paper. So I've put my acetate in there, and I'm going to tape my die, and I'm going to make sure I can see through my paper. I can see. You won't be able to see it on camera. I can see that I've got it so that it's on my acetate. And I'm just going to tape that and just run that through my cutting machine so that it cuts through my paper and at least puts an indent in my acetate. Again, you can cut this by hand as well. So my top plate's not too bad, but my bottom plate is an absolute mess. So any scratches and things are in my piece of copy paper, not on my piece of acetate, which was sandwiched between the two. So this is nice thin acetate and it's cut through it absolutely fine. Occasionally a die won't cut through the acetate. It'll only cut through, like I put an indent in it, but it's usually enough that it's really simple then to run your scissors around it. What we'll do is, just to find the centre, fold your circle in half, flip it open, go back in the opposite direction, just getting it as close as you possibly can to matching up. And like I say, if I'd not stuck my frame on this with the glue drying already, this would have been easier. Poke yourself a hole at that centre point with your pokey tool. And now I can mark that with my pencil. And I can poke a hole through, just big enough for my brad. I could do it with my crocodile if I wanted to, but I'll be honest, it's at the other side of the room and I don't really want to go and get it right now. So, okay, so I've got a hole in the middle of that, and then our spare bit of card, just going to make a hole in the middle of that. And that is all that our brad needs to go through. So our brad can get popped in there, popped through there, and open up its little legs. So all I need to do is put some foam tape around this, and this whole thing will spin once we've stuck it down. This piece, which is why I needed the double layer, and my glue's still not drying very well, this will hide the brad in the middle there. So you do want to try and pick a brad that's quite flat. And I'm just checking that my fluffy stuff's not too thick, and hopefully not going to stick up. Now, I actually think it might be quite fun just to put some of the fluffy stuff in the back on the sky in the background as well, like it's snowing. So now I've got fluffy bits in the sky as well. So how fun is that? So this is a really old American Crafts. This is Wow White, and it's a bigger piece of, so it is glitter, but it's bigger pieces. If I'd been smart, I could have backed my foam tape before I die cut it out with double-sided sticky, and then I wouldn't have had the wet glue issue. But I didn't think of it. But yeah, you can always put double-sided tape and that will also still cut through. So as any of you who've been following my channel for a while will know, I like to show you when things go horribly wrong. So this went horribly wrong because my office, my craft room, is so cold. My glue wasn't drying, still hasn't dried, and I've left this for a good half hour. And as you can see, I also didn't put any anti-static powder in there. So all that glitter on there is just sticking to the static on the acetate and wasn't moving, which is a bit pointless when I'm trying to make a snow globe spinner. I will probably start with a fresh piece of acetate. This is saved packaging. It's not costing me anything. And I'm going to use my permanent tape pen on the next bit rather than wet glue. Wet glue will work if your room's not as cold as mine is. I've given in and turned my heater on. And I'm going to be liberal with my anti-static powder. And I've also left this drying to make sure that all that wet glue has dried. I actually sat it on top of my heater for a few minutes. So this time I'm going to use my permanent tape pen. So hopefully this will stick nicely and nothing will come out the sides. Much better now. You can see what will happen when we spin it. it's definitely going to work this time, and it's not all stuck. Hopefully you can see it's not all sticking just to the front of the acetate now. It does work. So all I need now is some foam pads onto here, and the rest of it's just decoration. So these are quite thick foam pads, but they're good. You just need it to make sure that they're big enough that your little legs can still spin. So I would tend to leave just so that my little legs can still spin, so that we know that nothing's going to get in the way of this spinning. So that's going to go in there. But before I stick this down, because I want this to be a hanging decoration, I'm going to put some string or something. And as long as it doesn't interfere with this, it could just be stuck here because you won't see it. And we've already got the depth of the foam tape that it can sit under, if that makes sense. So I just need to find some twine or some ribbon that I want to use to hang this. So I've just got one of my really old 3D adhesive dots. These are 3L Dodds ones. So decide how long I want my twine to be. So I'm just using some that's got some kind of gold glitter in it. So it's red with the gold glitter. And like I say, it doesn't actually, I can leave quite a long loop. And I'm just going to tie the knot ends in a knot just because it'll mean it can't pull out so easily. You could use a little dollop of hot glue. You can use anything you want in there. If you are using something like mine that's double-sided, obviously you don't want it to stick to the back of this. So I'm leaving the backing plastic, which is clear, you'll never see it, and just trimming any excess. So that's really well stuck in there now. And so this is going to get mounted on here, and obviously my stickers are thick enough, and I'm just going to trim that off just so it doesn't get in the way of my mechanism. That's going to sit on here, and it should spin no problem. So like that. So now we just need to do all the decorative bits and decide what we're doing with those. And I've managed to get tape all over my silver. It's going to be one of those days, isn't it? It usually rubs off, but it doesn't want to. Let's go for try number 2. Let's stick the white over the top, and we'll have white edge instead. So all we need to do is assemble. So just take all the backings off my foam tape. It's on and then it moved. Of course it did. Like I say, one of those days, everything's going to go wrong, isn't it? So I've just decided, because they're sitting out on my desk, I'm just going to add, because I've gone for all red, and I've got a load of these that keep trying to escape from the backing sheet. I've got tons of these red gems, so I'm just going to add a few. And because I have them in my bits box, I didn't really like the embossing I'd done down the bottom there. So I'm just going to find a snowflake just to pop over the top. So I've just added a bit of decoration down the bottom there. So this time we used obviously like specialist dies that happen to be snow globe shaped. The next one I make, it will use nothing except circle dies. So this time I'm just going to go with white and gold. From my nesting circle dies, I've got 2 that are far enough apart just to give me a frame. And I've got white foam this time, so we won't have the red showing like on the last one. And I've got some gold. So I'm basically going to do the same thing. But this time, obviously, I need to stick my 2 nesting circle dies together to give myself a frame for the foam. And I want to do the same thing. I want a frame from my gold. So this is the smaller circle. I want something to make my background on. With my larger of my 2 dies, I just need something to assemble the whole thing onto. And then also from my larger die, I need my acetate, and the same thing, do it inside a folded sheet of copy paper. Just to make sure nothing transfers off my plates onto my acetate. So using our larger die, we're going to do the same thing on the back of this. This is directional, so I'm just going to make sure I've got it the right way. Oh, actually, no, it goes both ways, so it doesn't really matter. Again, with my pencil, I'm going to draw around the outside edge of my largest circle die. So this will end up being slightly bigger than our actual die cut circle, which gives us something to stick to. So if we want this to be like a bauble, we could just do a circle, and you could cut it with, again, with your die, or a die one size up. But if we want this to be a snow globe, we need to find a way to put something on the bottom to make it into a snow globe. So there's a few different ways that once you've got your circle, you could add some sort of base to it. So I thought this was one way. You could obviously freehand something and just draw, you know, maybe like a trapezium shape. If you've got a banner die in your collection that's roughly the right shape, which I did on one of my spinning puzzle cards that I made into a snow globe. Or I thought this was another way you could do it. If you've got any sort of label shaped dies that are nesting, so if you want a decorative piece that you can nest on top, these are two, there's more in the set, but they're stuck up on my magnet board. You could do something like this. So choose a point, you know, roughly there, I think, and draw around that. Anything that would give you any sort of vague base. It really doesn't matter what shape. I'm going to cut this out and show you because it's probably quite hard to see. So hopefully you can see that's got quite a nice decorative shape at the bottom, and obviously the snow globe is going to sit around it like this. So have a look through what dies you've got that you could use, whether to draw around them or cut them out as a base. There's all sorts of ways to do it. And I could use the same die that I've drawn around and cut out in gold or something, because of course it will come out slightly smaller. Or I could do it if it's nesting dies with one layer down, but obviously that's going to give a big border. So I'm going to cut out a piece in gold to match. And obviously I don't need the whole thing. I'll get enough, I think, out of this piece. Doesn't matter what's here because this is going to get something stuck over the top of it anyway. So when I cut out my acetate, it cut out my template that I can use to put the hole through this. So I just need a piece of scrap to put under behind. You can put whatever you want, obviously, inside your snow globe. So my blue blending brush has already got a lot of a very pale blue on it. I don't know which pale blue. I can tell it's an oxide because I rubbed my thumb on it and it's oxidey, it's chalky on my thumb. So I'm just going to use the ink that's already on as a pale blend, and then I'm going to come back over with chipped sapphire. So I've not put any more ink on this brush at all. It was really well loaded. Look at all that. That would have gone to waste if I'd rubbed that off on a towel or something. So I am going to come back and watercolour my tree. So this did start off as a white brush, which you can see at the top, and yeah, it's sucked all that ink up, but I don't tend to wash them. Eventually it will need a wash because you can see it's sort of getting caked, and that's why you keep separate ones for oxides and normal distress, because the chalk kind of cakes the brushes eventually. And this has got just water and perfect pearls, so I'm thinking let's do a bit of that before I watercolour my tree. So with my pine needles, and I've just got my water brush, and I'm just gonna do a little bit onto my tree. And because it's oxide, it should pretty much go over the top. So I probably got a little bit carried away there. So I think I will just try and go back in and stamp over the top of that with my VersaFine. And if I don't get it dead on top, it will just look like a shadow, hopefully. So I don't mind that Santa's got a little shadow going on. It actually, on the deer, it kind of looks like their other pair of legs, so that's fine. So I've got my hole in this bit ready, and I am going to use, again, because my glue isn't drying the best today, I am going to use my tape pen on this. Again, I could have put double-sided on this before I started, but again, I forgot. So I'm just using little tiny brads that've got nice flat heads. And because I'm only going through the 2 layers, it really doesn't need to be a big brad. So that's in there. So now we need to stick our background in there. And I am going to use wet glue for this. Actually, before I do that, I'm actually just going to, it shouldn't be bad in there because there's nothing really for it to stick to. But just get a bit of anti-static in there. Because we've learnt our lesson, haven't we, from last time? Again, I would prefer to use wet glue if my room wasn't so cold. I'm just going with the same glitter in this one. And I have learnt my lesson. We need to have a good go with the anti-static. Both sides. What I'm hoping is that I put enough in that it'll look like a little snowbank. I've probably put too much in there. So we need to do the same thing as before and put our foam tape on this piece. So this is what we've got so far. So now we go back to our base piece. So this will stick on the top here. Just make sure nothing's going to interfere. No, I think that should all be fine. So I'm going to stick this flat onto my back piece. And like I said, because these are nesting label dies, if I wanted to, I could put, you know, the next size down, nested on top, and have some words on there if I wanted to. So this is going to go in there. So I just need some twine. Again, you could use hot glue, whatever you trust to hold your twine onto your snow globe. Just make sure you've not got anything sticky left on display that will stick to the back of your spinning part. And I'm just cutting off the excess clear backing. Obviously, because I'm holding it on an overhead camera flat, it doesn't work so well. So it does work when it's up, when it's vertical. So this little tub, this is what I do when I've got specialty papers or textured papers and I've got little edges and little funny shapes left. I've got a couple of snowflake punches, and so this one and this tiny one are both a punch, not a die, and I just go along and punch all the little edges out so that I can use them on things like this. So these are my own little freebie embellishments, because these are all just little pieces that otherwise would have ended up in the bin. You don't need any specialty dies. You don't need anything fancy. You can, if you've got nested circles, you can either freehand draw yourself a base, or like I did, I just looked creatively at my nested dies. I happen to have these nested label dies. I've managed to make myself a snow globe, and it looks like it was made that way. So just so you can see these the right way up, excuse my awful nails because I've got ink and all sorts in them. So this is how they work when they're the right way up. The first one we made with all its puffy snow, I think I got enough anti-static in this one in the end, so there's not as much snow because some of it's stuck to the puffy stuff. So one using snow globe dies and one using circle dies, and I use just a label die to create the base, but you could freehand draw the base as well. So that's what they look like when they're hung. So just as something a bit different, because I've got my camera down to show you those hung, somebody when I did my craft room tour said that didn't look like a very messy desk for someone who'd been crafting. So I promise I'd tidied up and my desk was completely clear when I started making these two. So it was completely clear. There was nothing over here. Watch this. So this is my rigged up background, so you can't see my laptop sat back there when I was doing them. But look at the mess. All this was all empty desk. All this was empty. All this was empty. So the magazines, I lost this pair of scissors partway through. I've lost another pair of scissors under there somewhere. But look, it's like 10 things deep. So yes, I end up, just like everybody else, crafting myself into a tiny little space. I thought someone might be interested to see that. I have to say it didn't look very messy, but I promise, look, it's tidy over there. So that on my craft room tour, that bit was really messy. So it's actually tidy today over there. So there you go. And I'm very, very, very nearly at my 1,000 subscribers. So hopefully, if you've not subscribed already, please do so. Doesn't cost you a penny to subscribe on YouTube. And when I hit that 1,000 subscribers, my giveaway is ready to go. And I'm going to do a quick update video, I think, with all the things that are in it. So yeah, please like, subscribe, comment. It helps all of us little creators stay motivated. And yeah, huge milestone coming for me. Fingers crossed I will get to it before Christmas. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.